in the new standard. And yes, Robert, that's the reason why we're here for today, and we will try to talk about some topics about this new standard.
The 12464 is something which is, I guess, or I would say the really most important lighting standards in Europe we have, and even outside of Europe, we have also the application of the EN 12464 for example, in Arabic countries. From time to time, they also use this European standard. And here we have the values and the brightness levels and what we need in terms of lighting values on different workplaces. Also, it's important to know that the EN 12464 is just for workplaces. It's a standard just for labor, for workforces. It's not something for private areas. So you can do whatever you want, but if you have a working place, and this could happen quite fast. If you have a restaurant, for example, there's workforce, there's personnel working in all corners of indoor areas. We have working people who clean, etc. And there you need the EN 12464 in order to know what kinds of values you want to reach for uniformity, for illumination, for glare region, for color temperature, color rendering index, and so on. This is the 12464, the really most important one. And this is in standard, and standard is from time to time updated. There's a certain time period where the standardization group has to decide, okay, we do a new version of it. Something has changed in the application, in the usage of the standard. And this was happening after the last, 3 or 4 years. It was a longer period. And where we have a new 12464, and this will continue. We will also have in the next years somehow another version of the 12464. This is something usual. This happens. This is normal. But I have to say, this version has really a lot of changes in it. For example,
yes, not only changes, a lot of issues are also in the older version available, but they are not explicitly written in the tables. So a lot of people will not use these parameters as requirements, and now they become requirements. For example, to take the illuminances on walls, on ceilings, the cylindrical illuminance, and also the most thing is about that we have now not one fixed level. We have different
two illumination levels.
Two illumination levels, and we will see this in the table. So should we take a look to the new tables, to the new points in the standard?
We cannot show everything of the new standard. We can show just some parts of examples in order to have a feeling about the new structure. So
and here, as in the beginning, this is not the new, this is the old one, just for you to remember how it looks in the past. And so in the past, the structure of these tables was that we have the maintained illuminance, the UGR, the unified glare rating, the overall uniformity, and the color rendering as the only requirements which are listed in the tables. There are more which are written, more requirements which are written in the text, but not in the tables. And now this has changed, and we will see here now the structure of such a table. And you will see that it looks in the first view a little bit more complex.
Mm-hmm. And it is more complex. We have more columns. So the new tables consists of more columns with more values. The values are not new, as Klaus pointed out. This is something which is just coming from the text part. So the first part of the standard is text. Is a standard, and in this text we have a lot of descriptions, a lot of general stuff we need to do in lighting. And for example, there was also in the past the wall illuminance and the ceiling illuminance, not just in the text, but But the most of the appliers, the most of the designers go straight to the tables. They're not really intensively reading the first part, and this was also one of the reasons to take this also quite important values from the text into the table structure. And the result is that we have now tables with more columns, with more requirements, but requirements just moved, but also not just moved. The requirements in this values are more differentiated now. We have different levels for wall ceilings as we had it before. Before we had just, I guess, two values in normal value and more intensive value for cylindrical, for example. And now we have it in more different parts and specific task areas. So this is something new, but not just the column structure has extended, also the tables itself has extended. More task areas now as before, and we have also a different numbering system. So the numbering is completely renewed. There was a reset in the numbering. We have now different numbers. If you are relied to the identification number, reference numbers on the tables, this has changed completely. You can do it again. Let's have a look on the table structure. What do we have?
Yeah, here what is really nice, in my opinion, is that they have split it in the left part and the right part for one for the task area, and on the right side more the requirements for the room in general. And here on the left side, we will see now that we have here this possibility to work with a range, starting from a really required value up to a modified value, which needs some context modifier to give a reason why you want to use a different value.
Yeah. Let's have another look on the table. We have on the task area side, we have the uniformity, we have the color rendering index, this RA, and we have UGR, and UGR is now RUGL. It's now not a unified Clare ratio, it's a ratio unified Clare. That's why it's not just a different term, it's exactly the same. It's also UGR. This has just another terminology. This is overall of all the lighting standards. We have a new term structure on it, and this is just an update also of this term structure. And also we have the cylindrical illumination in it. This is also new on the table. Cylindrical means that is the illumination level for visual communication. This means you measure or you calculate light from a cylindrical vertical head, so that the light which comes in front of a cylinder. And this is really needed for visual communication. And in tasks where you have visual communication, so in a school or in classrooms or in sales activities or something, meeting rooms, good example, you have a higher requirement in a cylindrical illumination. This is nothing new. This is just now in a table. Besides, and also the brightness appearance of the room is also now in the tables, and also with a big differentiation between the different task areas. And this is also good to require and also good to fulfill, because if you have not a requirement in the room surfaces of their brightness and including the uniformity on, then you have a dark cave where it's not nice to be in. And if you have a bright room which is bright itself, then it's more friendly for the users and has an overall better environment if you have a private room.
Yeah. I will now switch to so that we can see. This is one of the most important example of offices, so which is really typical, and here we will now see the values and the requirements, because here we will see this is on the wall luminances, for example. We will see here because we have here typically a higher requirement is needed, and you will find in the old standard it was typically 50 lux, and just written in some areas higher values are recommended, and these values are now here printed in the standard in the tables which are used for the planning. And here on the left side, we will find these points of the required illuminance, which is in the most cases the same as in the old standard. Some are a little bit modified, but not in general. And you have the possibility now to work with modified values in certain cases.
Yeah, this is the biggest change. So in my eyes, this is the most tremendous change from the last version to this version, which I don't know if you have told. This is now active. This standard, this new 12464 was published by autumn, I guess October or November last year. So this is the current active 12464 and published. Also in some countries in some languages. So there's a German language and a French language available on the 12464. It's available to buy and it's active on the site. And this is the biggest change on this is that we have now 2 illumination levels. The illumination was the main part where the most of the lighting designers get down to it and try to reach these values according to standards. Some of the designers were happy just with the illumination level 500 lux on the desk and unfinished. Of course, there's also a uniformity level you have to reach and so on. And this uniformity level is still the same or quite the same. We have some, in the new standard, we have some more task areas, as I said, and also with some, in parts, also with some higher requirements from the last version to this version. And yeah, and the biggest change, as I said, is we have now 2 values. And 2 is not this 2 to the bottom. We have also more than 2. We have in range of it. It's also possible that you have values in between of this range. This means, for example, an office desk, writing, typing, reading, data processing, the good old 500 lux value, and as required, as minimum value, and the modified, the upper value has 1000 lux, but it's also possible to choose 750 lux in the middle. You are free to choose between these 2 values, but just on the scale. There's an illumination level scale also stated in the standard. This is by a factor 1.5.
1.5. So in our example now, this is 500, 750, and 1000. That's the upper limit.
So it's not possible to choose 800. We have to have 500, 750, or 1000.
And the reason you as a planner has to decide to give a reason for why you need more light in this. And what's very nice is the standard gives us some example for such reasons.
Yeah.
So
there's a table. So first of all, the reason to have this range is that you have more freedom as a designer to choose to say, okay, I have here an desk which needs a higher requirement. I need to have a higher requirement. I need to have more lighting quality. I need to have more light on this. And in the past, it was just fixed. You have to have 500 lux. And the most of the designers stick to this 500, not or was a bit of shy to have more on this. And now you have a standard which allows you to do more light on this. And also the standard gives you some arguments, some context modifiers. And there's a list of 8 context modifiers. Just for example, one of the context modifiers is visual work is critical. Errors are costly to rectify. Accuracy, higher productivity increase. The task area is undertaken for an unusual long time. Task area or activity area has a low daylight provision, whatever this means. And also the visual capacity of the worker is below normal. So this is something which is quite soft. This is something, where it's hard to put a measure on it. But if you have some of this arguments of this critical of this criteria in your situation are active. 2 of them means you grant up of 1 step on this illumination scale. And if you have more than 2, then to the end of the scale to the modified value. And there are also decreasing modified factors. And in the standard, there are just 2 of them, but this is just the opposite. So if you have, for example, a task area, which are usual, has large size and a high contrast, then you can lower it down on one step, and the task is undertaken for an unusual short time, for example. So this is something where you can move the scale along this argument, but this also means that you as a lighting designer needs to deal with the situations. You need to know who is looking on this task area, what happens on this task area, in which scale, on which contrast, in which time, and so on. And this is something you need to know and you need to communicate. And then you need also to communicate what you have chosen in value. It's not enough to say, okay, I have illuminated the desk according 12464 with 500 lux. It's not enough. Now you need to say, okay, I have chosen 500 lux because the worker can see normal, this a normal usual task on the desk. Or vice versa, we have a higher requirement on this desk. We need to go to 1000 lux. This is something in communication in both directions, which means more freedom and more options to do, which is in a way good, but also you need to deal with it. So more definition and specification work on this, together with more freedom.
So the responsibility, which is now on the planner side, is a little bit higher than in the past. It is also a little bit, we see it as a good thing for the planner, but also we see also that it's a little bit on the critical side, that it may be confusing in the cases when you want to compare. Yep. So in the beginning, the owner of you have to set this criteria. For example, we have the visual work is critical, for example, in a very early step. Otherwise, you will get from 10 offers 5 different definitions what kind of working task area this in your project this is. So this should start in a very early time, so that in the following process all these requirements are clear.
Yep. Yeah, so something, as we said, communication more than before a lot, but also more freedom. So this is the biggest change on this, and there's also this decision is also relating to energy consumption. It's also something you have to have in mind, because the lighting designers for a couple of years, the last 10 years, I would say, so depends on your country. Is dealing with energy consumption and also dealing with light quality. You can either have a good lighting quality or a nice energy performance. It's hard to do both, and this standards gave us the opportunity to do more light. One of the arguments would be, okay, we have in the last years saved really lot of energy with LED. So LED brings us a lot of energy savings, and now it's a bit of enough. There's never enough of energy saving, but we have enough done in energy saving. Let's do a bit more in lighting quality. So let's putting lighting quality also on the agenda back, and not just energy saving. And this standard gives us the possibility to do more energy consumption for better lighting quality. Of course, for a lighting designer, if you deal with lights, lighting quality should be the first issue. But also we have to deal with energy. Of course, we live on one globe, so it's hard to not to deal with energy. But this is depending on the use case, it's depending on the situation, depending on the country, depending on the designer, on what kind of design you have. And energy could be critical. Then then you can choose the requirements, the minimum requirements. But if you have enough energy available, or if you have enough green energy available, then it's completely possible to have more in lighting, and also outside the standard. It's not forbidden to have more than 1000 lux on a desk. If you have the glare ratio you have to deal with, but it's also possible to do more and better light as in the standard. Also something you have to keep in mind. You can always do more, but you have some minimum requirements for in desk or for workplace in the end. So keep energy also in mind, and this is also one of the variables you have to put in the complete design formula. What is the energy estimation or energy deal with your with the project you are working in. Yeah. We have also some smaller changes in the surrounding areas. The surrounding areas of the task area, you really remember you have this task area, and the surrounding area around the task area has also the same angle, the same tilt and arm like the task area. Yeah. This was not so clear in the previous version.
Here it's more precise as in the past, the description, and maybe in some cases we should change a little bit our work. Also the border of the reference plane to the wall, or
the wall zone of the room.
The wall zone of the room. In the past it was just say half a meter, and here is now for small rooms or thin corridors or something like that. It is a little bit more precise that you can choose a percentage of the width or length of the room.
Yeah,
which should be taken here in account.
Yeah, also an advantage in small rooms. We see on a lot on detailed parts of the standard some improvements. So we have to say overall this is a really improvement. Also in the tiny spots, there are some parts which leave also a bit of too much open in interpretation. Of course, for example, also some glare ratio spacing to high stuff. This is unclear because we have now in the standard the CIE 117 and CIE 190 as reference. And these two CIE reports have different spacing to highs in the definitions. So either 1 or 0.25. Yeah, and this is something which is not solved, but we have to say in terms of UGR, or we have to say now UGL, so the ratio of unified layer. The standard, the previous version, also this version is really down to the tables.
Yes.
So we have table values. We have to have for UGR values tables of the luminars for evaluation with these values. It's also possible in RELUX to calculate.
Yeah.
So this is also possible. We have really in desk, really an observer with a direction of view and so on, and then you can calculate this specific value.
But in the standards, the border, the limits which are written in the standards are basing on the table table calculation. Also in the appendix now the table the process is more better described. It also gives us a lot of possibilities which are missing in the past. For example, what should I do if my room jumps out of the table? So the table is limited, and there we will find now here a lot of descriptions what to do in these situations. If I have two different type of luminaires inside of the room, if I have luminaires with a big indirect part, or as I already said,
or more than one luminar in the same room, for example, or not rectangle rooms. So the standard gives us in Appendix A a lot of arguments, a lot of clarification, where the table method comes to a border, where's the edge of this table method, and the new 12464 gives us arguments and guidance what we should do if a table could not be used. But now we have a procedure what we can do with a not rectangle room with multiple luminars inside, with different luminar heights, with different areas of the output. And if we reach the table ends on top and on bottom, what we should do. This is nice. This helps to make the table method stronger. And the table method is something which is more reliable, where more studies, more investigations are happening in relation to this real calculation stuff. And yeah, in this we are thankful to have now this clarification. The only missing point is the spacing too high, and we assume, we don't know for sure, but we assume that the UGR requirements of this new EN 12064, for example, this 19 for an office desk, is based on the spacing to height ratio of 0.25. As some limitation, but I guess it is so, because we have now reference to both, also to spacing to height of 1, which is used quite often in the UK, which is also fine, but the 0.24 is the more worst case scenario, as we have with 1. It's also a good point to tell you that our next episode, our episode number 9, is dealing with Claire ratio, with Claire ratings. So it's on the 24th of March. Then we have a session just with Claring. So this will be also interesting, a bit more nerdy than today, more deeper down to the Claire stuff. But then we can investigate what is UGR and what is the spacing to height, if you are interested in. Yeah, I guess this is everything we have to say for the standard. I just roughly check my notes, but no.
Just we can say in general, you will find in the appendix very informative information. So we recommend you not only read the tables, not only read the headlines, also take a little bit of a look to this informative parts of the standard. You will find there a lot of description also to handle this new strategy about the required value and the modified value. There are some examples which may be very helpful. Also about the UGR description.
Yeah, definitely. So the appendix C is really having an example how to work with this context modification, how to be between the upper and the lower value of illumination.
Okay, let's take a look to your questions. I guess we will find one. 1 second, please.
Almost. Okay. There are some questions. Okay, the sound issue, we have the sound issue, we have sound issues. Background sound issues. Okay. What is the future form of UGL? UGR. Yeah, it's really the same. Just UGR is now RUG. It's just a term, nothing more. It's just a term. The rest of it, the metonic, the methods, the formula is everything is the same. With the new nominal values be implemented to RELUX, last profile in the program is EN. Yeah. At the moment we have the old version in it, the 2011 version, but we will have in our next major release in Windows Desktop 2022.2, the next major release, we will have the new standard values and also the reflection of what comes just with the values reflected in our application. This will happen, we hope for before summertime that we have it quite fast, also reflected in Windows Desktop, of course.
Yes, here is the room. The room illuminances are also the required values. If the task illuminance is 1 step up, the room illuminances must be also 1 step up.
Yes, it is so. Yeah, the wall and the ceiling is also bound to what we do in the steps. Also in the example of the Appendix C, you can also see an example how to adapt ceiling, cylindrical, and walls. This is also comes together. You need to calculate the other values.
Clear presentation. Can you share the tables?
No. The standard costs money. The standard is about in Europe it's about 200 euros. The standard you can buy it on all standardization bodies, web shops. You can buy it. We have at the moment we have the English version, there's a German version, and there's also a French version out. I have seen that there's also a coming Spanish version of the standard. There will not be a translation in Italian. That's also something we know today. There will not be an Italian. There will also in Uni EN 12464, no question, but in English language. Yeah.
Okay, does the 500 minimum value refer to the desk or to the whole room, including circulations, breakout, etc.? It is the same as everything. If you have clear defined working places, and then it is suggested that you will plan for the task area, for the desk by itself, and then you will have other, for example, if you don't have special requirements, you will have 500 lux on the desks, 300 lux in the surrounding, and I don't remember at the moment what's for the background.
Yeah, the background is 1 divided by 3 of the surrounding. Yeah.
If you don't know where your tasks are, you have to fulfill this for the complete room. Then the 500 lux.
It's in a way some kind of your worst case. You don't know where are the desks. You're assuming the complete room could be a desk. Then you take the complete room.
So it's a little bit similar as in the past, but it's a little bit more stronger to start with the desk-orientated planning.
Yeah, as always, it's the same like in the old standard. The standard requires a task area view, so it's always about the task area. If you take the complete room, this is something where you put the task area to the complete room. The 12464 is task-based oriented, not room oriented.
Where can I buy the RELUX cards?
This is the old cards. We're not in current production. We have not it available right now. Maybe if some more of you require it, maybe we create something for our shop. Not at the moment. We have no merchandise.
Maybe a good idea for our marketing and sales office to make a kind of merchandising shop in our shop.
To start with merchandise. Please implement the new norm as soon as possible, since the old version is not ready anymore. Right? We will do. We are doing it at the moment. This is our current development step to import or to include in all languages we have available this new standard. Yeah, our next major version will have it in. How does RELUX Desktop account for the non-visual light measurement entering the worker's eye at 1.2 meters per CIE S026? I honestly have not the CIE S026 in my mind. Worker's eye at 1.2 meters means sitting people. Non-visual light effects are in RELUX Desktop not really directly calculated. RELUX Desktop calculates with the energy amount comes from LVCs. There's not a spectral definition of the different parts of it, so we calculate just with energy in RELUX. And there is the non-visual effect is down to an energy portion on the worker's eye. This could be calculated. What is the effect in energy on the worker's eye, but not in a spectral definition at the moment.
Will the profiles in the room change, for example, when you define an office where calculation? What will the room standard be then? What values be an office, for example, to get a green result? It's a little bit similar like as it works at the moment. You will define a profile for the task area if you are working with task area. Otherwise, you can choose a profile for the complete room. What will change is the selection or the possibilities of the profiles will be adapted to the new standard with the new values. Also, the possibility to select the profiles and so on. This will completely change.
Yeah. question on the side, is IFC import possible? Yes, if you have an Autodesk Revit on site, then you can put the IFC into Revit, and from Revit you can have it as a RELUX project file. This is our current way. Maybe, just maybe, we implement IFC one day directly. It's not so heavy to do. IFC is quite well formed at the moment, so it's possible to take out at least a couple of information of the IFC. Yeah, thanks for the question.
Okay, here is a description about, but we have to read the CEA about this of this specific point. I guess it's the same as before.
Yeah, the circadian light and light stimulus. It's about the spectrum, this is at the moment in RELUX we have not an spectral calculation of the different spectral sources. It's possible to enter a spectrum in RELUX, but we do not calculate different spectrums together to the worker's eye. So there's not an HCL or circadian light model according the timeline. So this is an important stuff, no question, but this is something which is not available in data at the moment, and not available in calculations. So it's about, you can calculate the complete energy amount, and if you filter it down to the blue portions or the effective portions, you can also calculate this in RELUX. But then you need to know how many energy you have on the blue spectrum available. Then it's possible.
Okay, can we test beta version with the new standard?
As soon as we have it, we discuss about. We will have a beta test. If you are really eager to see it before we publish it, it's possible to join our beta test community. We have a quite fixed beta test community. If you want to join, then just send us an email to the support or to us if you have our email addresses, and then we will be enlisted on the beta test, and then you will have it quite early, the version with the new standards. But maybe on the side, it's also good to have the standard there. We just put the tables into RELUX desktop, and not the text in the beginning, but the text has also an impact, and also the appendixes with this examples and this UGR stuff and so is also important. So it really makes sense to have a copy of the standard available with all the description, and not just with the tables. Table values we will provide in RELUX, also in the complete broadness of all the columns. This is in our design at the moment, but you need to interpret and to operate more than before. You need to know when I use which value, and this is deep down in the standard. So it's really good to have at least one copy available to have and look by your own.
Okay, I guess it's time.
I guess it's all. Yeah, also the time is up. Thanks for attention. Thanks for your questions. There are a couple of more questions, but time is running out. Yeah, thanks for everything. And I told we have our next episode 9, about glare rating, not just indoor, also outdoor glare ratings. There's also a lot of stuff. And we have it on the 24th of March at 2 o'clock Central European time, the same time frame as today. If you want to have it in German language, then at 10 o'clock in the morning, Central European time. And yeah, have a nice day.
Okay, looking forward to see you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.